I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Root Zone podcast. I am your host, Christopher Stout. I am excited for our next guest. Like I said, I say that every time. That's my line. I'm excited for my next guest. We have known each other.
You better be excited for me. We've been friends for a long time. You better be excited.
this could go one of two ways. We'll see how it goes. But I'm excited because I think I know Christian I was trying to think about, I really met you when we were just starting to drive. So I think it was like 16, 15, 17, somewhere around there. We're both 42 now. So simple math, that would be 6 years, something like that. So that's a long time to know somebody. So the reason why I wanted to bring Christian on is we were talking before we got on the actual recording was, he's like, what's the point of this one? And I was basically telling him, I was like, I want to hear your story because you've done a lot of things in the business world, from running, working for the man to managing their company to running your own company, small business, all the way to now your e-commerce. So without further ado, this is Christian Woodland. Thanks for joining me today.
What's going on, Sal? Thank you for having me, brother. Pleasure to be here. Congratulations on the pod.
Yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress. Like I said, this is the second one that I've done on Zoom. Like we were talking before we got on the pod, I got to learn how to edit it and make sure it looks good. Zoom makes it pretty easy though. So we'll see how the pod goes, but it's like a passion project. So hopefully I just get to keep doing it and talking to people like you. We tried to get this done weeks ago, and then we saw each other at a mutual friend's house, and I was like, let's just get it done. And then I brought up we could do it through Zoom now, and you're like, oh, no doubt, let's do it. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Christian, how did listen, your story is a little unique. When did you first start? So give a brief history of yourself. What were your work history? Go for it.
All right. So my cliff notes real simply are 15 years old, was a cart pusher at Hackinger's, moved from there to Friendly's, bounced around a bunch of different jobs before I got out of high school just so I could work. Got done high school, tried the 13th grade, didn't work out for me. I never was really much on an academic level. I kind of just I always worked. So I always had two jobs. Met a guy when I was, must have been 20 years old because I was underage when we went out to Vegas for the company. But started working in a commercial swing set environment with a bunch of really great people that taught me a lot about business and how to kind of be in a company, kind of in a small business format, because they were only, 10, 12 people within the core location. Stayed there for a bunch of years. They actually helped me get started segue into doing the auto detailing business that my buddy Kevin and I ran for 15 years together. About 2.5 years ago, we broke up the partnership mutually, no issues or whatever. I kind of continued with it. He wanted to go off to do other things. I kind of took that underneath myself. We had employees during that time when we were together on the whole nine, and then kind of managing that by myself and doing that labor aspect of things. But in between all that, 7 years ago, I started an e-commerce platform that wasn't originally supposed to be e-commerce. The whole idea was to fake it till you make it. And that kind of blew up into something else. So it's been the detailing thing for 15, 17 years for me. And then it's been this second e-commerce thing for the past 7. And that's kind of up until 42.
So let's I want to break into, because we always have this conversation when we're hanging out, is you and Kevin started that business when you were young, man. I mean, how old were you guys? I mean, maybe not too young, but 25, maybe 26.
Yeah, so it was. I was 27, I believe. Kev was 26. There was a life-changing event that kind of happened for Kev. I kind of was trying to nudge him for a while to do it, and we were young, man. We didn't really want to have that type of responsibility, but we knew that we needed to kind of figure something out to do for ourselves because we both didn't have a college education, So we talked about it. You were there that night, dude. I think when we picked the name out. I mean, I can give you your flowers now. if that's what needs to be done. I mean, if that was the point of bringing me on the podcast, was for me to literally just mention the fact that,
still don't have the royalties from it.
You were part of the original inception. So for anybody out there that doesn't know, the company we started, our mobile detailing company that we do to work with car dealerships, we named it Second Impressions. And Chris, our gracious host of the podcast, was a key element in creating that name. There's some controversy whether he actually was the true inception, the whole idea of it. But ultimately, a lot of it has to be, we have to thank Chris Stout for that. So right now, I'd like to give you your flowers, Chris, publicly in a public forum to let you know I truly appreciate that.
Now let's get into the dirt of it. So this is what we always fought about, right? Was the growth aspect. Right. And I remember you and Kev right at the beginning were very gung-ho and you were getting accounts, getting new accounts, going to do sales. And then I'd say, I guess about halfway through those 15 years, it kind of just became monotonous for both of you. It was just a job. It was just a paycheck at that point. Or what, we always talk about your employees kind of soured you to growing, right? I mean, that was your
I mean, listen, here's the thing, right? We're friends. So I'm trying to listen to you get away with saying this in the way that you are, because we have truly argued about this for such a long time in regards to what we should be doing with that aspect of the detail business. So ultimately, right, when we first started, to kind of give everybody more of a backscope, we do work out at dealerships. It's a repeat business on a weekly basis. We make a very good living doing it. We had employees. Originally, it was Kevin and myself. Then we added one other person. We added another person. And then we have one more. So at the time, we have 5 different employees. We're, 5 total guys in the company, 3 employees. The fact of the matter is obviously as you scale up, costs go up, right? You have payroll taxes. You have liability. You have insurance you have to keep. You got to ride extra vans out. If weather hits, if health insurance goes up, everything kind of goes up. And there's a certain area, I think, that even maybe you could speak to now in regards to the growth of the business that you're having. Like, you get to a point, right, where you got to realize, like, am I aiming for the moon or am I trying to get out to the stars?
100%.
Because there's a spot where you can kind of feel like, you're not, that if you keep expanding, the madness is going to continue, right? But like in the same sense, like, where do you get to that point where you're going to be financially comfortable and safe, and being able to create something for yourself where you're going to still be able to have time with family, have time with friends, be able to see your kids go to the games, coach, whatever it might be, That's kind of the balance. So for us, to go back to the original question, when we would argue about it or whatever, for me, it was always in the beginning when we had the employees, it was working, but like, you lose accounts or whatever happens, right? And this is no diss to the homies because we're still friends with the guys that used to work with us or whatever. But like, when you lose an account that we would be billing like $2,000 a month at, and then like you come home and you say that to us, and then you like go home, like I can't sleep at night. You know what I'm saying? And like that, when it happens 3 or 4 times in a week or 2 or a month or 2, and all of a sudden the business is bringing in like $8,000 to $10,000 less a month, you still have guys on payroll, you're scrambling to get other accounts, things aren't lining up. That's when it gets kind of crazy, So, ultimately, Kevin and I we never really once we faded out and started doing the work ourselves again, it was hard for us to be able to bring people back in because we knew we were dependable. We could get the job done. We could make a comfortable living. We found that
and Christian, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. And I was thinking, trying to get down to the root of why you made that decision. That's all. And I think that because, there's a ton of owner operators in the green industry. There's probably a ton of owner operator plumbers, electricians, contractors, right?
The detailing community is insane. I mean, it's all it is.
And that's what I mean.
Shows,
like,
man.
What was it the grind of trying, like, because me and Steve are going through that right now where we're going to try to be better businessmen, identify profitability, identify our margins. Where can we make more money? Who can we pay? How can we pay them? Like, it has become more of a, it's just a different ownership role, right? When you're an owner operator and you're in the field with the guys, it's almost fun, right? But same way with me, we lose accounts, keeps me up at night. But I also have to. We play a numbers game, right? In the green industry, right? If we can stay under
any business, I was going to say, excuse me. Every business is like it's a living document, right? It's a living organism. It's constantly growing. It's changing. Its requirements are always different. Like you put it in front of a certain stressor, it's going to react a certain way. So like that's part of like what I feel like is that's the fun crazy of being the business owner, right? Is that you have to pivot and make moves, and you're a problem solver, and that element of it can also be the same thing that leads to stressors. That can also lead to the same thing for you putting efforts or resources in areas that you shouldn't, and making bad decisions and getting. So I mean, circling back, I mean, the decision to stop bringing employees in for me was because I wanted more, because the service aspect of providing the work that we do, doing it daily on a daily basis for the next 25, 30 years of my life, I knew it wasn't sustainable. And we couldn't get on the same page, my partner and I, with like kind of how to grow the business. And that, instead of having it become something where it was strife between us, we never really were able to work through that. And we kind of just decided to dissolve the partnership, because we had different ideas, different directions, and we couldn't find that segue in the middle. Now that being said, me and this dude rocked out for 15 years.
And I guess that's the point.
Great living to each other.
And that's the point is like, what was, you're still doing it to today, but I feel like now that I've seen you do what you're doing with biobombs, and we'll get into biobombs and what they are and what we're talking about, e-commerce and how you're selling to the world now, but which is totally different than what you did with Second Impressions, right? But what was, I feel like I want to try to figure out why you just didn't just say, okay, was there not a person to go do the expansion of the business? Did both you guys not want to just keep growing it larger? And was there an end goal? I guess that's my question. Was there an out? Right? You said you didn't want to do it for 25 years. Was there thought to selling it? Was there an opportunity to sell it? Could you have sold the business to another competitor per se? Like, what's the market? Like, was that ever a discussion that you've had either with yourself now, like, hey, just get rid of the business and sell it? Or was it ever a conversation with you and Kev, like, hey, can we grow this to a certain amount to sell it? Because a lot of companies in every industry, private equity is taking over half the, 3/4 of the country, and that's why companies aren't paying. And we won't get into all that, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a way out in the green industry. I know if I grow Stout Lawn Care to an X amount of dollars, that I can get my return on my money and be safe. Like seriously, like safe. Like I could. The money I invested, I could get out, and I'm clear, I'm free and clear. But was that ever a goal with Second Impressions?
So we talked about it. We went through a lot of different trials and tribulations in regards to kind of like what we should do in that scenario, if we should try to sell. But again, right, like we worked in a very niche market, and one of the things that you and I have talked about before has been like the support that would have to be necessary in order to trade off the business into somebody else's hands. One of the things that we're like we're a luxury item. Dealerships don't have to use us, so there's an established built relationship over years. When I say years, we've been working with a lot of our clients for plus 10 years. That's a big thing, right? So that relationship matters a lot into what it is that we actually provide for the dealers. So that support role that you have to play to do the sales, that's something that was pretty important as well. But ultimately, we weren't able to get on the same page with that either, because it takes a lot to be able to do a transition into a sale, but it also requires a lot to kind of get that ball moving in the right direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like,
we had a
it's just a lot, man. It's a lot, and even now I think to myself, is there going to be a point, because of the success that biobombs is having, like, do I find something to let go of kind of what I'm doing with the detailing gig? But in the same sense, man, like there's a certain level of comfortability because I've been doing it for so long. It's peace, right? It's become Biobombs has gotten so crazy that like my piece has become doing the detailing thing.
Yeah.
Being able to kind of disconnect during the day and just throw a good
Yeah.
podcast on or an audio book or something that kind of really like, it's a really not, everything
You
else is
almost
tuned out.
decompress. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that chaos, bro.
We had a guest and a good friend of mine, Kevin Salters. He's he does the Turf and Nutrition podcast, and just a great dude. And he worked for the biggest landscapers in the country, Brightview, Bright. You know, he's worked for a lot. I don't know. I don't think it was Brightview. I forget what it was, but a lot of large landscapers. And he's now just an owner operator, right? He loves it. Everyone has their trials and tribulations, but he really he likes the fact that he's his own boss. Maybe his son fills in for him, helps him on busy days or something like that. But there's no real employees. And obviously, when I spray a lawn at Stout Lawn Care, how I spray a lawn is way better than how, anyone else I think how, it's just one of those things.
Same thing, like the work van, right? Or the trucks. Like, obviously, you're going to treat the trucks a little bit different than someone who doesn't own them is going to treat the trucks. I mean, that's just the reality of things. And I think that's one of the hard things we have as business owners to kind of have to understand is like, there's a certain amount of release and loss of control you have to take, right? And learning to manage that through business will actually help you as well in life when you get things that come your way, because you understand that like you have to give up control sometimes in order to grow, in order to see the bigger picture, right? If you're too busy in here and everyone listening can't really tell, but like if you're right here focusing on this thing right in front of you or whatever, and meanwhile right next to you there's a bunch of other cool shit going on that you're not paying attention to, you're gonna miss it, Same thing with opportunities with business, right? You could be dead set on trying to figure out your email marketing campaign and it's not hitting and whatever. But meanwhile, right next door to you, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook's knocking on the door like, yo, we're right here. Free marketing. Drop some reels. Throw some funny audio up. Drop a green screen. Let's get it moving, So like, that's one of the things where it's you relinquish a little bit of control. You stop being such a stickler about the way the vans are being taken care of or whatever. And you kind of loosen up on that and you put your energy towards something else. It could be beneficial. But in the same sense, there's a fine line. You got to make sure that your shit's your equipment, is being taken care of.
No, you're 100%. Well, you still have to perform and produce a good quality product, whatever the service is, whatever you're doing. And
the brand.
That's the scariest part for me. But we just did a podcast a couple of days ago with Mike, and that should air pretty soon. But we were just talking about letting go. Like you have to. I have an employee that we're training right now that I want him to be on a specific type of equipment, and because I need him to do that, or we need him to do that to grow as a company. Like it's not just me; it's everybody in there. If I can get off that machine, if the other guy can fill in and I can train another guy that can do all those things, then we can continue to grow. I can spend more time out in the community. We can spend more time out in the community. We can do all kinds of things to grow the company. And it's just, but like to your point, it's so hard to let go of something that's so important to the business, whether that's your marketing, whether you hire somebody to do all of your marketing or you hire somebody to do all of your answering of the phones, or if you hire somebody to do all of your applications, or if you hire you hire somebody to go to all the dealerships, they still have to do that job, and it can wear on you that they're not going to do it as good as you, and
especially when you have standards for what it is that you would consider to be like your business, that's your baby, like you built it, like you watered her, you nurtured her, you taught her how to walk, you taught her how, you know what I mean? So like getting to that point when you're in business and you got to be like, okay, like there you go, like take care of her. And then you have to like turn away. It's like when you're like, I would imagine it's like when you're like sending your kid to school for the first day, you're like, okay, like go do your thing, be with the people that,
And honestly, over the last couple of weeks, I've been very humbled. We had a meeting with our accountants. We had a meeting with just a good friend's father that has been in business a long time and was able to look over our numbers. And not that we're doing bad, not that we're doing.
No, but they gave you a pair of eyes that you didn't have on your own stuff.
Correct. We had our accountant.
That makes a big difference, bro. That makes a big difference.
he just came in and said, "Hey, listen, let's get some better reports. Let's dive deeper into this." And it was not humbling as like I feel stupid, but humbling as I know it's the next step that I need to do now. And it's a hard transition from being the owner operator like you were to being not on the road. And I guess that kind of wraps around to their, comes around to the first point we were talking about. You went from owner operators, you and your partner, to hiring people, back to owner operator, back to square one owner operator. So that's full circle in one little, one business, which is wild. That usually doesn't happen like that, right? Usually it's, you get a couple employees, then you shut the hell down, and then you go broke or something, or you continue that business. But it was just, that's an interesting way of I don't know, it's just an interesting thought.
Yes, I definitely feel like I kind of had a little bit of a different my quarter turn around the sun or whatever it would be, 20 years worth of the life, kind of the little rotation that I kind of went through, and then kind of the rebirth again now with the new company with the e-commerce store and stuff. It's been pretty cool. I think ultimately, like, I'm not bored with doing the detailing thing, right? Because it's something that feels comfortable and safe for me, right? Does that make sense? Like
pause 1 second. Do you think if the detailing was something that you were more passionate about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would have gave it more effort or more chances, right? Because I think you created that business because you thought it was a good opportunity to run a business, make some money, and you're good at it, right? Which is totally different than being something passionate about, which I think we'll get into biobombs, but I think that's more your kind of passion.
Oh, listen, that is my, I don't even know to tell you how much she's worth to me. That's everything.
Yeah.
That's my bill.
So maybe I can tell the difference, the passion levels. And that's okay. Like, a lot of people look at a business as to make money and provide for their families and do good, right?
Right.
But as the owner, you have to have a real passion for it, right? And
for
finding my passion for lawn care, like I think I know a lot about lawns now, a lot about grass, a lot about marketing, a lot about all this stuff. But now my new passion is to be a better leader, to be a better boss, to grow the company, to be, self-ed, like, that's my passion. It has to do with grass, but my passion is really to grow the business, to do this podcast. I just started a peer group, of people in our industry. Like I love this aspect of it.
The community
of all of it, the conversations you can have with people,
the entrepreneurial community itself. It's 100%. It's a creator's space, right?
Correct.
And that's where creators can share ideas, create things. Everyone finds their lane, right? But when you get to a certain point when you're a business owner, if you're truly passionate about what you're doing, I do feel like there is something you're feeding inside of you that requires you to have this growth, right? Like, no diss to anybody who comes home from work, chills out, has their same routine every night, whatever, but like, I guess the people who are able to make it in business, right, have to be able to have an extra bit of something for what it is that they're doing. Otherwise, it's kind of just still work, right? Like, your business is not work to you. It's pretty much your purpose, right? At this point. Like, at your age, you found something.
I would shy away from my identity because I don't want Stout Lawn Care to be my identity.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the wrong way to look at it. But I think of I think you're onto something where the path that I'm on to just, just being the community, being in this community is where I kind of want to go. And I want to learn how to be a great business owner, right?
So the person you are right now is the person that is who you're meant to be. This, as I'm saying, like, this is who you are, right? Like, all the other jobs, I mean, we know each other for a long time. Dude, you were a chef for a long time. You know what I mean? You've had these different gigs where you've, tried to float within and out of these markets where you were, dude, I mean, I don't know if people know or you talk about it or whatever. Like,
no,
I don't know if everybody knows or not. This dude can cook his ass off. I mean, really, really, really well. Shout out the skills. I mean, I haven't had nothing from the kitchen in a while, but I'm just saying, you're very talented at that, right? And for a while, that was like where your lane was, right? But now I feel like if I were to ask you, what is more fulfilling to you, your best times you had as a chef, your most memorable, proud, treasured moments that you have as a chef, or what you're doing right now, you don't even have to answer the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's a no-brainer. So that's how you know you're in the right lane. That's how you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be at.
But you know, it's weird. You know, it's funny though, is that now that I am this small business owner and we've been around for 5 years, there's been a proven concept. I haven't missed a payroll. Like we've done things the right way. Now I look back and be like, man, I'd love to open up a little restaurant and get back into it a little bit. Like, and not because I like cooking and I'm passionate about cooking.
No, but you understand the business now.
It would be fun to try to start a new business. It would be fun for me to go and open up Stout Steaks or you know, something.
Listen, don't
like
tease me with a good time. Don't tease me with a good time. I'll fund it too, man. We're doing well over here too. We'll just, we get Stout Steaks going. You already know. I've been a big fan.
There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of cheesesteak places popping up. I got to find something different. You know, you got to be on trend too. With food, you got to be on trend. You know, you can't be doing some 4-year-old specials. So,
but I think too, as business owners, man, right? Like we don't give ourselves enough credit for the small victories, right? Like you said a couple of things that were really powerful when you were just speaking right there. Like you said, like I haven't missed a payroll, bro. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? 5 years you've been in business, you haven't missed a payroll. Like you don't give yourself enough credit for that. Maybe potentially like on not a regular basis, but like I don't think you see like how much of a reward that is for your success, right? It's not measured on the same scale as maybe a good financial month would be, or a growth of new clients per month. Like those small things, like, you picked up a new van, you bought a new piece of equipment, you paid off a piece of equipment. Like those things are the steps that I think a lot of small business owners who are growing don't step back to give themselves enough recognition for, because those are the things that keep you charged up, right? Like that matters. It's like the same thing. Like I know you can speak to this probably when you hear good testimonials and reviews from your customers, bro. They're the things that charge us up more than anything else. We get something about BioBombs doing this and saving somebody's car, or you change the way I operate my business, or it's like stuff like that where you're like, you hop off the call, you're like almost getting emotional about hearing somebody say that you've been so impactful and like what it is that you're trying to provide as a service, that like you get emotional about it. And then you hop off the phone, you're like, let's go, I'm amped. You know what I mean? You're like bouncing off the walls, like you're calling people, you're pumped up, you're closing up things that you should have finished 3 days ago that you've been forgetting to do. Like, it's just, I think like those little things in business, man, being small and trying to get to that next level, I think are really important. Because like, I can speak to it from having the ups with the employees. Dude, we were banking. We were making good money with all the employees. A lot of headaches, you know what I mean? And you kind of got to weigh that out. But it's like, and then going back down to kind of where we were just operators and owners, having the two of us be where we were at, that was another ride in itself, and then kind of saying to myself, all right, we got to figure something else out. I want to do something different that's going to bring in maybe residual income and build a brand that potentially could have retail sales or e-commerce sales. And then that whole thing kind of spiraled. But, I would say now where we're at with the business, it's grown so much over the past 6 months that now I feel like I'm in that phase where it's like, holy S, like I got problems out the waz. Like I feel like Jay-Z, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I do have 99 problems on a regular basis. And that's what happens when you're scaling, Well,
yeah. Well, I remember sitting in your basement a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about scaling, and I was concerned for you. I remember talking to you and saying, because I remember a couple of years ago, I found this guy Ballard, Corey Ballard, and the people in the green industry would know him. He sells mower parts and all kinds of mower equipment stuff. But this guy is just a grinder, right? He ran a landscaping company, just a really, he has his own podcast too, but the green grind, I think he calls it. But he was very he was very transparent about how he went from e-commerce, right, where he was just this little shop selling whatever mower parts, blades, blah, 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 to having to scale. And then his struggles in that scaling was tough for him. He said, listen to his podcast. He was saying, I remember my wife, saying, I was like, oh, we're going to start this. And then, year 2 in, she's in there answering phone calls, packing up bags or packing up boxes. They weren't able to scale. They were having problems with, getting stuff in on time, and their website needed to be revamped. And I guess that's kind of like, he had a little different scenario where you have to worry about part numbers and, mowers,
Yeah. But listen, the conflict at home is real.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%, dude. I mean, that's the thing, like that's one of the things that's really tough when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to do things. I mean, I can obviously speak to it. I had a relationship that, didn't work out because, arguably I probably got myself self-absorbed in making sure that what I was trying to create and what I was doing was always priority one, because it was so important to me to kind of just get this thing going, and there's a balance that I guess you got to kind of have in life when you're trying to do that, especially when you have a home life involved, and if your partner is working with you to do things, or they wind up doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing, you might be so focused on like, yo, I'm trying to get this, and this done. And you probably should be like coming home with some flowers and being like, yo, let's go out to grab something to eat, or, hey, I really appreciate you, because your partner might be ready to rip your head off or stab you while you're sleeping. You know what I mean? Because of how difficult you could be. Because we don't realize it either, like we're under heavy loads all day. Like you're out of work, all of a sudden a trailer blew a wheel. You had a van take a dump on you. Guy didn't show up. There was a detour. You're backed up. You couldn't get the 5 accounts. It rained the day before, and like you're coming home.
Or it hasn't rained in.
Or it hasn't rained in your case.
6 weeks.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like I'm saying, like that's one of the things where it's like all of a sudden, dude, like you might not realize it, but you're holding a lot of heavy stuff. You're bringing that bad energy back to the house, and if you can't flush that out and walk in with a clean, you're going to wind up having some arguments at the house, brother.
I call it my busy brain. And Michelle's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, my brain's busy right now. It's just there's so many things going through my brain at the moment that I don't have time to like not acknowledge the wife, but like to show her any kind of attention, and it's just because I can't turn it off. I can't. When I get done work, I'm thinking about the next day, or I'm thinking about what's the next marketing employee. What can we do to really keep growing the business? And so let me pause right there, because I really want to get into the bio bombs thing and what they are, because I think the people, the maybe 10s or 15s of people that listen to this podcast might get some use out of bio bombs, and maybe it's something we get into. But I know bio bombs smell good, which leads me to my next point. We always have to give a shout out to our sponsors, Brian and Steph Sweeney over there at Tick and Skeeter Deleter. They provide us with that all natural outdoor insect control, controls fleas, ticks, mosquitoes. Chris, does Chris have the outdoor insect control, Mr. Christian? I don't think you do. Maybe we should get you signed up for that. But
I mean, here's the thing, man. I got that sweet meat. I mean, the skeeters light me up, bro. I stepped outside last night for 5 minutes with my neighbor. 5 minutes, dude, and I got plucked 5 times.
Yeah,
I went out I went out in the morning yesterday, let the dogs out, dude. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up before the birds. 4:45. I'm up before the birds are chirping, and the skeets are still getting me.
Yeah. So dusk and dawn. That's one of the worst. But listen, Tick and Skeeter Deleter, they're a great product. You can find them at yardcomfort.com. I will start tagging them again in the podcast. Last 2, I didn't do it. Maybe 1. I forgot to tag yardcomfort.com, but.
Hello, this is Brian and Stephanie, owners of Tick and Skeeter Deleter. Are you providing a tick and mosquito control service?
We formulated a product to target today's environmentally conscious market.
Tick and Skeeter Deleter is your ultimate 25B exempt pesticide.
This product controls on contact while acting as a repellent.
With these all-natural essential oils, you will leave behind an aroma even the neighbors will enjoy.
Elevate your business with Tick and Skeeter Deleter.
Use discount code ROOTZONE for a 5% discount on product at yardcomfort.com. Thank you for listening to the Root Zone podcast.
You can buy it personally, Christian. It smells great. It's made with citronella oil, peppermint oil, you name it. It's got it in there. It's a natural deterrent. It also does take care of them on contact. So it's good for the safe
water base
for the environment. No, it's soap, like a soap base, like an oil base. So very
safe to spray
similar
on surfaces, like underneath the patio area, overhang in the house. Not going to leave any stains, nothing like that.
No stains, nothing
That's
that you would have
important.
to worry about. And the best part is that you obviously want to make sure that you're taking our pollinators into consideration when you're spraying it. So you can spray everything you want around your house, on your house, underneath your house, except for things that are flowering. That's the only thing you want to be careful of. The residual effect lasts about 14 to 25 days, depending on the amount of rainfall, stuff like that.
Sure. So right now we'd be pushing 30 days. You'd be good with the treatment. No problem at all.
Yeah, as long as you don't have those little, as long as you're not watering your flower pots and you got standing water somewhere at your house. Right. I don't think there's a mosquito problem here in the Northeast and Pennsylvania over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So that's been a blessing, but there are sponsors.
I got popped 2 days ago. That's about it. That's the first time I was getting lit up. So I'll take that.
Call Steven up. Tell him you want a bug application.
I'll have to look into that. So I was on this guy's podcast. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not. But,
yeah. So second thing that smells good, let's get into BioBomb. So I want to tell everybody, I've known Chris for a long time. I've seen the evolution from, the car detail thing. I know I remember years back, you were kind of into the smells. You always had something. It was always nice being friends with Christian because my car always smelled good. He always had some sort of detail spray to put down. He always had, these little, you call them bricks now that we would throw underneath our seats. And then I remember maybe it was about 4 years ago, you got linked up with this guy. We don't need to get into all that. And you found this one product called, what's the name of it? It's BioBombs, but what's the product itself?
So, but I've been using variations of the product for a long time. So we basically create something. We sell a product that's a deodorizer, right? And it basically, when you mix this particular chemical concoction with water, it creates a gas called chlorine dioxide. Now, chlorine dioxide is a very well-known deodorizer in the pharmaceutical space, lab space, science world, right? But it's not very known to the general public. It's definitely not very known to the automotive industry in general. So people have cars that smell like cigarettes, wet dog, food, body odor, gasoline spills,
fertilizer,
whatever, dude, anything. We do delivery trucks that smell nothing like baked bread, and you would think that smells amazing, but you sit in that car for 5 hours and you get out and smell like baked bread on everything you have on you. You would be able to attest to that with frying in the kitchen. It's like those type of smells, like our stuff gets rid of, and it does it by breaking down the actual odor molecule itself on a molecular level, so it's not really like a masking agent or a cover up. It's actually like a science-based solution. So we always say, forget the fragrance, you know what I mean? Use science, and it works. So, we saw a couple different variations of that stuff. And then that led us to get into the air freshener market with a certain standard. You had mentioned something about the bricks back in the day. We had these bricks when we were doing the detail company. And I finally, 3 years ago, I consider this person to be one of my closest connections I have in the business right now. And they provided me with the opportunity to be able to have what I consider to be my dream air freshener, which we call them BioFresh bars. Basically a little square block. It looks like a granola bar. You snap it in half and you take one chunk, put it underneath your seat, and your car will smell fresh for 60 days. They're super, super cool stuff. Yeah. So that's my life now, man.
Yeah. And the BioBombs, I remember back in the day, you give me samples and using them, and I was astounded by the ease of it first. Everyone's had smells in their car, whether it's cigarettes or their kid threw up in the back or whatever it is.
McDonald's bags that were sitting in there, whatever, dude.
And those little trees are just absolutely terrible. And the little clip-on things, and
they're the worst, bro. They're the worst. I mean, it's like this. It's like, check it out. Come in my car. It smells fresh. No one puts the clip on the driver's side, right? So if you use those things, you put it on the passenger side clips. So you pick somebody up in your car and you're like, yo, hey, sit in the front seat. And I'm going to blast you in the face with a bunch of chemically concocted craziness that should not be getting blasted right in your face. On top of that, you're leaving oils like all over the car. Like, it's just, they're wild, dude. All right, so clips are the worst.
So break down practical purposes for BioBomb. So like, I'll give some examples of what I use them for, and then maybe you can give me some more examples of what industry people, service industry people could use them for. So I use them for my shop. I use the big boys. What do you call those? The big ones?
The room deodorizer kits. Yep.
The room deodorizer kits. So I use that because I've gotten complaints in my shop that my shop smells like the Home Depot, the home and garden section of Home Depot. And we share, it's a big warehouse. So when I just try to I'm a very clean, neat person. So I can smell the odor when we walk in there. So every month, every 2 months now, I deodorize the whole 2,400 square feet. I also use them for my trucks. So once we do the BioBombs twice a year, once in the middle of the summer, once in the middle of the winter.
Yep.
Right. And so we eliminate the funk from the winter, and then, you want to get it nice and clean for the spring season. And then I also use them in my personal car. Now, I have a new personal car, so I don't want to put any fragrances in there. And that's why I like the BioBomb so much, is because I don't want to necessarily lose that new car smell, but I still want to keep the air fresh and it nice and clean in there. So besides, a shop, right, which I think a lot of people could use it for, or an office or a locker room that maybe the guys meet at every morning and change or something like that. What other practical applications can you think of that would help, people just, be cleaner, smell fresh?
So there's a lot of different things you can use them, right? So we have two main flagship products would be our vehicle deodorization kit and our room deodorization kit. That's a pretty decent sized tablet. You drop it into water like Alka-Seltzer. It releases this gas into the room. You have to exit the vehicle or the house, whatever. Remove plants, remove any pets, remove people. You want to make sure you vacate the process. Same as like using an insect fogger, but it's not anything on a nasty chemical level like that. But those are our main things for deodorizing spaces, right? What I always say is that you can deodorize the air with these things. So it could be a smelly closet, it could be a crawl space, it could be a storage area, it could be a garage, it could be a cafeteria, it could be a locker room, it could be, any space, right, that has a smell that's kind of, what is that? Our stuff will neutralize that stuff. What's really nice about it is outside of that, you can use it in cars, you can use it in buses, you can use it in RVs, you can use it. Any space that you can, of course, any space that you can close off, we have a product that's going to get you back to zero in regards to smells. So if you have a stinky smell, it's going to just zero you out. The car's going to be neutral again. A little interesting fact that I always tell people that I talk to, if I had to ask you a question, how many days on average do you think Americans spend inside their vehicle a year? Just their vehicle. Take a guess.
I'm pretty good at stuff like this. Okay, so I'm close. Let's see. I'm going to say 365 days in a year. You're driving 2 hours. 75 days a year.
No, you're way high. You're definitely not good at this. You just completely blew my entire thing I was trying to do. But the true answer is actually 18 days a year.
18 solid full days.
18 full days a year. So that's 9 days every 6 months, which gets a little scarier when you think about it that way, right? That you've dedicated 9 days out of 6 months to be in the car. So we become very nose blind to our own smells and our own funk that we create inside of our car, right? So you might not think that your car stinks because you're in it every day and you're nose blind to the smell. But meanwhile, you could pick somebody up for the night and they can get in your car and that thing might be kicking and you didn't realize it because you're used to that smell, you know? So one of the things that we always promote with our products is like doing exactly what you do, which is like an interior air quality reset, you know, which our stuff will reset you back to zero. And then from that point on, it's kind of like once you introduce funk again, eventually it'll kind of take over and you just do it again, you know? So yeah, I mean, you can use our stuff pretty much anywhere, man. There's not an odor, knock on wood. Obviously, for anybody out there who doesn't know, my last name is Woodland, so I always do that. There's not an odor we haven't been able to beat yet. It's a matter of how bad you got to dose something in order to get rid of the funk. You know, all the funk is like we can bust it all. It just is a matter of how much we have to kind of get going on. Yeah. We've had I mean, we've done all types of crazy stuff. I mean, we had rotten watermelon. We had a guy, I mean, all these Google reviews that are on our page are just absolutely phenomenal. We had another guy had a house burned down, half the house burnt down. They did a full resto, restudded, re-put on new drywall, painted everything, left, came back the following weekend. The whole house smelled like char. After all the work's been done, it smelled like char. Bombed the house with a bunch of stuff, left the review for us, can't even smell it, fixed everything. I'm going to order all the time, et cetera, et cetera. Rotten chicken. We had a dude go, he lived in California, had a Mazda Miata, went on vacation for 10 days, left his car sitting in the California sun for 10 days with a pack of chicken in the back of his trunk. Tried everything to get rid of the smell. Couldn't get rid of it. Dropped the bomb in the trunk, gone.
Speaking of my restaurant days, so that was an evil trick we used to do is throw mussels under people's car seats. In the middle of the summer.
That's like the grumpy old man shit.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, that was some good stuff right there.
I can't wait to do that with you if we're old enough to make it to that level, bro. Oh, man, I can't wait. I can't wait, bro.
It should be fun.
Because I got the fix. You got to come to me to buy the product to get the fix. You know what I mean?
Like, So the BioBombs thing, right? You have. I want to touch on this because I think you've done a phenomenal job, and maybe I don't give you enough credit. Because I used to bust your stones about your social media, and I always said, because I think Stout Lawn Care does a pretty good job with social.
We're cooking now.
Yeah, I know Stout Lawn Care does a pretty good job. I think what really bothers me now as your friend, I think you're doing a better job on your social media than I am, which really pisses me off because 4 years ago I was smoking you and you couldn't keep up, and now you're like lapping me on all these reels and staying involved and. But what I'm really impressed by is your commitment to the sale, commitment to getting out there. And I think that was the most important part for me when I got out in Stout Lawn Care. I was doing anything and everything to get out there. I was, signs, T-shirts, handing hoodies out, handing hats out, yard signs, anything I could to get out there. And it's funny to see your post and your Instagram page where you're just fucking randomly sending car detailers a package. Like that is the definition of, guerrilla marketing, right? You're out there. And what was we got a couple more minutes, but we're good on time. But what was
I'm good.
What was the switch, that really turn that on for you? Because I remember seeing you were doing good. I remember talking to you. You're like, I got a lot of sales this week. I reached out to a couple detailers. I think I'm really going to start pushing this. Then you did, the logos and the stickers and then you started getting the packaging in and you really started rolling. But there was this like 1 month period. I remember talking to you about it where it was real quick. It went from 0 to oh shit in like a month. Do you think that was just the guerrilla marketing nature, or do you think that it was a combination of really just putting yourself out there? And maybe was it, because I think I make a lot of good connections in the green industry. Maybe it was, you finally put yourself out there and you made a connection in the car detailing industry.
So to answer the first part of your question, what eventually made me go to social media, right? Because we were talking about that for a while. But that was you were part of the influence for me to do that. But more importantly, the reason that held me back from getting involved in that originally was the fact that I wanted to establish myself enough that somebody else wouldn't be able to come in who had more money, more time, more resources. Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of what it was for me that I was scared to do. And then eventually I'm like, you know what? F it. Rip the Band-Aid off. I'm going in. And I like sat back one morning and I got on the like cap cut and I created a couple cool little things. And I realized that like, oh shit, this is going to be fun. And once I started doing it and I got a couple cool posts together, I had 5 or 6 or 7 things in the cut. I put one of them out there, started following people, put another one out. And like all of a sudden I'm like, yo, this is really cool. And then, you know, circa a year later, I followed that same procedure. I kept kind of putting stuff up. I started this program to give away free samples to detailers. I had them DM us for more info, created posts on it. I caught wind, a content creator got me. Next thing you know, they share my product and then we go viral a couple times. I mean, dude, we had a video. It's probably got to be a 5.5 million views right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. That ran over. I mean, it wasn't even 2 months ago. I mean, the thing was just straight cooking. But like, this just happens because of taking the step. You know, for so long, you're like, Woods, just take the step, dude. Like, just do it. Just do it. And I'm like, Stout, shut up. I'm tired of you telling me when I'm ready, I'm going to do it, you know? But like, eventually, like, you have to put your foot in the water.
Yeah.
And like, I think that goes back to the whole creator thing. Like, I've had conversations with you, right? And with Steve, where I'm like, yo, try to add that new shit to what you're doing, right? Like, take a cap cut reel that's popular and scrape that, like, throw that into something with spraying a lawn. And
I talked to Steve. I said, we missed the Hawk Tui. I said, what? He charged Steve's it. And it's my fault as owners. We missed that.
You like, should have Hawk Tui all over. You should have been Hawk Tui all over the lawns. All over the lawns, dog. You could have thrown a 5-gallon bucket of water on Steve. You know what I mean? Like Hawk Tui.
I know.
You know, it's 90 degrees. You can still get them. Just put a camera up or whatever. You know, I ain't gonna listen to the whole podcast anyway. Just put a camera up in the warehouse and dump a 5-gallon bucket on them and get it live on a recorder. Just Hawk Tui them.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
But no, I think it's important, man. Doing that type of stuff or whatever, I think was like one of the things where I found, at least for myself, right? Like, I have somebody that gives me a hand on social media, right? I would say we're close to 50-50 in what we do, you know?
Yeah.
There's times when like he drops some true gold out and I didn't even know was coming, you know?
Yeah.
And I open up the page and I'm like, oh, this is good, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's times where I do the same thing. And then there's times where, dude, you think you got the best post in the world. You watch it over and over and you're like, man, this is so good. You drop it, it's flat on its face. Boom.
Yeah.
You're like, I just don't get it. And then like there's times where I said to myself, like, I don't care. This one was so good. It didn't hit right. It's been 8 months. I'm putting it out again. Like, I'm going to see if it's going to hit different now because we got more followers and stuff, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the social media thing's important, man. I think anybody with a brand right now, it's free marketing, right? I can't put enough of an emphasis on that enough. There's nothing you get for free anymore in life. You get free marketing with social media. Use it. You know, me and you talk about it all the time. It's one of our regular conversations we have. Use it. Yeah. Another thing, like that most guys should be doing, this is so important. And obviously, a lot of you guys are local, so you might be kind of stepping on each other's feet by saying that. But like SEO work is essential. Yeah. It's essential for your business. I don't care what your size is. Find somebody that's going to work with you and get somebody to geo out your area to where you're at so that if you're a service-oriented business, there's a close circle from where you live at, that you're getting the focus of the energy from people who are looking for stuff. Yeah. Yeah. You know?
And that's super important in the green industry. In the FERT world is we want to be as densely routed as we possibly can.
Of course,
you know, of course. And that's, you know, staying on top of it's, you know, and that's what I mean. It's so hard. It really is to
scale. Everything's a scale.
How many different topics did we talk about as being a small business owner, right? Just tonight. 6 of them. And that's not leading into the 13 others that we have to worry about on a daily basis.
We're scratching the surface on the level of what we could really get into on this pod, and obviously I know we have certain time constraints or whatever, but we could come back, we could have a conversation later. I mean, AI I think is another huge thing that a lot of people have to really start getting involved in. Dude, I have a friend of mine that just the other day said to me, like, oh my gosh, have you ever used ChatGPT before? And like, without me being like rude about it, I'm like, I've been rocking ChatGPT and Gemini and all that stuff for a while. Like, if you're not using it, you're missing out. Whether it be something as simple as writing an email and copy and pasting your email in there and being like, yo, tighten this up, and then you get that copy, you mod a couple things so it sounds right for what you need, and all of a sudden you got a piece of gold.
And the chat, the AI stuff is getting a little interesting too. I was listening to a podcast where this guy implemented it into his pest control company. Shout out Triangle Pest Control. Donnie Shelton, I think his name is, but he now they have AI listening to every conversation your techs have, your sales guys have, your operations, and what it's doing is automatically creating operational procedures, how you should answer a phone call, what's the best response to this question. And so he's had AI listen to all these conversations over the last 6 months, and now he's going to implement it back into his business. And that's just that blows my mind. And he was talking about how it used to be Google Ads, right, where the advertising you could pay. AdWords.
It's still going to be Google Ads, though, right? Like, I don't want to cut you off, but I'm saying no matter what, realize something. The Google machine is never going to kill their own ads, right? AI is going to be important, but they're not killing ads.
What I'm saying is, like, they were, am I saying this right? Maybe not paid ads, but it was, you could do these in the beginning for pretty cheap, and then everyone got on board, right, with keywords or your search words, right? So everyone was competing for the same words. But if you got on that platform super early, you killed it, right? Because you were always
it's important for how long you've had your website, right?
Yeah.
Like, the longevity of your site matters. Like, I'm talking to a guy right now who he just called me randomly from Delaware. He was like, yo, I have odoreliminator.com. I want to sell it. I'm like, all right, well, where are you at? He's like, well, the site's been available. I've had it for 12 years. That has age, right? That gives you, it's like if you're in a tribe, you know what I mean? Yeah. If you're a senior odor eliminator, like, you're a senior, dog. Like, you get that rep. So, like, that's the same thing with SEO. Like, the longer you're in there in the space with the keywords, the harder you are to bump out if you're doing things the right way. The harder it is for somebody new to get in and nudge it their way in.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, now they're doing things where, like, on your site, videos, right? Linking videos into your site that are under a minute is a huge thing to do now, because everything's short form video content.
Yeah.
So Google's scraping, looking for that, and throwing people those sites first, because you got little 1 minute clips on your website. Lawns or
we both got to do more research on the AI, because it's going to be very similar to the AdWords, where you can pay to get ranked higher in the AI search. I guarantee that Google's running this right now, because they're going to eventually pay for it. You're going to eventually have to pay to be part of their AI configuration or how you're searched. And that's, and that's what I mean with the, I want to try to get on top of what that really is. And to your point, if you don't know what AI is, I mean, like I said, I started this peer group, and I had to write, 15 other business owners, most of them way more successful than I am right now. And I wanted to sound as professional as I possibly could. Right.
Yeah,
so I wrote up my 2-3 paragraphs, throw it in AI or ChatGPT, and then made a couple edits, and I sound like I'm a seasoned business owner.
Right. Well,
I don't know.
You are a seasoned business owner.
I'm
but it gives you an extra level of confidence, right? Because sometimes you can't articulate what you're trying to say in a way that's going to sound as professional as you want to, because especially in email, right? You only have a certain amount of attention span to grab your audience. So if you direct AI to help you do that, it's going to give It's going to summarize what you told it, and it's going to take that information and throw the best part of it right in the beginning. A big thing people don't understand about using a lot of these large language, or these language models is like you have to prompt the right way.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, I want to write an email to pick up this new client, make it short, sweet, simple, but I want to make sure it has this, and this point, Like you want to do like, I'm trying to write an impactful email to gain a new client that is in the same neighborhood as existing clients. Give a big push on the value and benefit of using my service as opposed to others, our small business techniques that are different than the bigger companies, and that we're a local company that sponsors local events. Dude, you hit enter and you get that shit back and you're like, oh yeah, we cooking. You know what I mean? Like me and Gemini, we cooking right now.
Yeah, we had a meeting with our accountants today, and they gave us a SWOT analysis. And
SWOT
reading
analysis is great. We just did one. It's amazing.
But it was just reading over it, you're like, oh, this is totally AI generated, because you could see it went through our website. You can see it went through our competitors. And now, am I saying that was a terrible waste of time? Not at all. I'm saying AI
every company should do a SWOT analysis.
So much information, right? That me and Steve had a meeting like with the accountants, like maybe we can pick out, out of these 60 points in the SWOT analysis they made, weaknesses, strengths, but maybe we can really look at 2 or 3 of those and say, hey, let's dive deeper into our digital marketing presence, right?
I would say you should probably look at probably 6 to 8 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like we said in the meeting, it's really more of a exercise and jogging your brain, like exercising and getting the thoughts going, because you definitely get a little stale when you're in the business. It's hard to look outside the business and see what's wrong with it, besides a numbers perspective or a equipment failure or something like that.
But a SWOT analysis will give you the opportunity to be able to put those things in front of you and stop avoiding them, right? So you're like, okay, what happens if a truck goes down, like blows the engine goes down? Yeah. Are we budgeted to be able to go out, outfit a truck, make the payment, do the transition, be ready to go, losing maybe 2 days? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's those type of things we have to think about. Like for us, right? It's like, okay, like what if something happens where, one day we can't get our raw chemical we need or whatever? How do we plan accordingly? What's our, how long are we going to have our on-shelf supply, without having to produce new product? There's all these different, but like, if you're not thinking about it, then when it happens, you get caught with your pants down, So that's kind of a really important thing, is like the SWOT analysis, I think, is something that a lot of businesses should probably look at. And I think every small business owner that doesn't have a major budget behind them for employees and people or whatever can definitely get a lot out of the AI models that are out there to help them become a better business person,
Yeah.
Which that'll lead me into the same thing, dude. I'm sure you do a ton of it, like audiobooks, podcasts, like, everyone, listen, dude, it's great. Do I want to jump in the van, go out to work, do the things I have to do, and throw on some great music and just vibe out all day? Dude, without a doubt. Do I do that during the week? Sometimes, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
But if you're working in the field and you're spraying lawns, you're cleaning cars, or you're doing whatever it is you do, if you're not utilizing that time to really kind of be a sponge and take some other stuff in, you're not really utilizing your time the right way, man. Life's too short. You know what I mean? You can get a lot of cool stuff done and listen to. Like, granted, you can't grasp some things the same way when you're listening to them. It's probably better to have some things in front of you, but it's still better than just listening to music every day. It's all about that expansion mindset, dude. And I think that's kind of what you promote with the podcast and kind of what you've been doing in the community. Like, I think that's kind of the cool part about what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's the idea of the root zone. Like, let's talk about it. Like that's the idea. And I'm glad, when we got on, you're like, what is this? Before we got on the pod, you're like, what is this really about? And I was like, let's just go through it, and then I think by the end of it, we'll both understand what this pod was about. And I think that's really a good ending point on the conversation. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot of things going on. But now that we have Zoom,
we're meeting right after this. It's 9:30 at night right now.
I know it's busy, and I appreciate the time, and it's always fun to talk to someone that I have outside of a work relationship with, and that we can shoot some ideas off of. But for the listening audience, how can they get a hold of you? Because I want to make sure people know out there, this is available at your website, biobombs.com. And besides biobombs.com, what's all the other handles? If someone wants I'm sure if anyone mentions Root Zone, I'm sure you would send them a free sample of something, or you would hook them up. And I'm sure maybe we convince Chris to put a 5% discount, on checkout Root Zone podcast, something like that. That'll all be in the show notes. But Christian, where can they get a hold of you? Where can they find you? All that.
So biobombs.com, biobombs.com will get you to their website. You have access to everything there. If you sign up for our newsletter, you will save 10% off your first order. Definitely could probably create something for a Root Zone discount as well. Just kind of see where we would be at with that. Anywhere you search, we got a really good SEO guy. So you type in biobombs, you're pretty much going to find us now. All the handles are pretty much biobombs on all the social media sites. Anybody with any special type of odor issue or something you want to tackle in general, just reach out to us at info@biobombs.com. One of either me or one of my guys will get back to you, kind of walk you through what it is we can do to get you set up. But anybody even that's listening to the podcast, you guys are friends with Chris, you network with him or whatever, reach out to us, send us a DM on any of the socials, and we'll hook you up anyway. Even with or without a purchase or whatever. We'll definitely.
Because I would love some of these guys to try the bio bombs for their work trucks, because they get pretty funky, especially this time of year.
I'll send you a free sample. Anybody listening, just reach out to us. We'll definitely get you taken care of.
Beautiful. Well, thanks again, Christian. Appreciate you coming on, and we should do this again in maybe a couple months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And we'll see how BioBomb's doing. I hope you're in your brand new house, the mansion. I hope this blows up and you can continue to be as successful as you always been.
Well, and the words of the late great homie Nate Dogg, ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. So, I wish you the same success as well, my friend. And, thank you for having me on. This has been a blast. I know we got a lot of banter back and forth with each other, whatever, but I'm very proud of you and everything that you're doing for yourself, for your brand, for your business, for the family. You're a great man. I'm honored to be your friend, man. I appreciate you having me on. So thank you very much for that.
All that good stuff, and right back at you. So appreciate everybody listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Catch you on the flip side, y'all. Peace.
I'm talking to you.